Chosen one. What looked like you being buried was actually you being planted. The dirt they threw on you was not meant to cover you. It was meant to cultivate you. The darkness you have been sitting in was not a grave. It was soil, and soil is where seeds become trees. You are not dead, you are dormant, and dormancy is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of transformation that only happens underground. If that just shifted something in how you see your situation, go ahead and type planted in the comments. Because what I am about to explain will completely change how you interpret every painful thing that tried to bury you. Let me start with a principle that will reframe your entire perspective. When a seed falls to the ground, it looks like death. It gets covered by dirt. It sits in darkness. It appears to have no future. But what is actually happening underground is the most critical phase of its entire existence. The seed is not dying, it is preparing. It is breaking open. It is sending roots down and preparing to send life up. And all of that happens in a place where nobody can see it. You are that seed. What felt like your life ending was actually your life beginning at a level you have never experienced before. The relationships that fell apart, the opportunities that disappeared, the dreams that seemed to die. They were not the end, they were the planting. And planting always looks like loss before it looks like growth. Here is what most people do not understand about seeds. A seed cannot grow while it is still intact. It has to break. The outer shell that protected it has to crack open. The form it has always known has to be destroyed. And that breaking, that cracking, that destruction of what was, it is painful. It feels like everything is falling apart. But it is not falling apart. It is opening up to allow something new to emerge. Let me be specific about what breaks during germination. First, your old identity breaks. Who you thought you were has to crack open so who you actually are can emerge. You cannot become a tree while still thinking like a seed. You cannot grow tall while still operating small. The identity you carried, the one that was formed in comfort and shaped by circumstances that had to break. And it hurt, because identity death feels like actual death. But it was not death. It was evolution. It was the necessary destruction of what was limiting you. So what is limitless in you could be released. Second, your old relationships break. Not all of them. But the ones that were connected to the seed version of you, those have to fall away, because seeds relate to seeds. But trees relate to trees, and you cannot maintain seed-level relationships while growing into tree-level reality. Some people were only meant to know the seed you. They were not meant to know the tree you, and trying to keep them close while you are changing only stunts your growth. Third, your old perspectives break. The way you used to see things, the way you used to think about problems, the way you used to process challenges, all of that has to be dismantled, because seeds see from ground level, but trees see from height, and height changes everything. What looked impossible from the ground becomes possible from elevation. What looked permanent from a limited view becomes temporary from expanded perspective. Your old way of seeing had to break so a new way of seeing could form forth. Your old limitations break. You used to believe you could only go so far. You used to think you could only handle so much. You used to accept ceilings that were artificially imposed by fear, by failure, by other people's projections. But germination destroys those limitations. It cracks open the shell of what you thought possible and reveals what is actually achievable. You are not who you used to be, and who you used to be could not do what you are about to do. That is what has been happening to you. The breaking you experienced was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to open you, to crack the shell of who you used to be so that who you are becoming could emerge. And I know it hurt. I know it felt like you were being torn apart. But you were not being torn apart. You were being torn open, and there is a difference. Hit that like button if you have ever felt like everything in your life was breaking at the same time. Because simultaneous breaking is not coincidence. It is germination. And germination is the process that turns seeds into trees. Now, let me talk about what happens underground, because this is where most people lose hope. They are sitting in darkness. They cannot see any evidence of growth. They cannot see any progress. They cannot see any movement, and they assume that nothing is happening. But that assumption is wrong. Everything is happening. It is just happening where eyes cannot see it. When a seed is underground, it is doing the most important work of its entire life. It is developing a root system. Roots go deep before anything goes high. Roots spread wide before anything becomes visible, and those roots determine everything. They determine how tall the tree will grow. They determine how strong the tree will stand. They determine how much fruit the tree will produce. Everything that matters is established underground. Let me explain how roots actually work. Roots do not just anchor. They explore. They search for water. They search for nutrients. They navigate around obstacles. They find pathways through hard ground. And in that search, in that navigation, they become extensive. A tree that is 20 feet tall might have roots that spread 40 feet wide and 20 feet deep. The visible part is impressive, but the invisible part is what makes the visible part possible. Your underground season was your root development season. And while you could not see what was happening, everything essential was being established. You were learning how to draw from sources you did not know existed. You were discovering strength you did not know you had. You were developing resilience that only comes from navigating obstacles in the dark. You were building a foundation that could support weight you have not carried yet. And here is what is critical. Roots determine capacity. A tree with shallow roots can only grow so tall before it topples. A tree with weak roots can only produce limited fruit before it depletes. But a tree with deep roots, with extensive roots, with strong roots, that tree can grow indefinitely. That tree can produce abundantly. That tree can withstand storms that would destroy lesser trees. And your roots, the ones formed in extended darkness, are exactly that kind, deep, extensive, strong. You have been underground. And while you were there, roots were forming, roots of character, roots of resilience, roots of wisdom, roots of strength, roots that go so deep that when you finally break through the surface, nothing will be able to uproot you. No storm will knock you down. No drought will dry you up. No attack will destabilize you, because your roots, the ones that were formed in darkness, are stronger than anything that can come against you in the light. This is why the underground season is so critical. If you had broken through the surface too soon, you would have had height without depth. You would have been visible without being stable. You would have looked impressive without being rooted, and the first strong wind would have knocked you over. Heaven kept you underground, not to keep you hidden, but to keep you alive, because premature exposure kills unprepared plants. Comment 777 if you are still underground and you are trusting that roots are forming, even though you cannot see them yet. Let me tell you what was being developed while you were in the dark. First, Humility. You cannot be arrogant underground. You cannot perform underground. You cannot impress people who cannot see you. So you had to learn to be okay with obscurity. You had to learn to find value in being unseen. You had to learn that your worth is not determined by who is watching. And that humility, that ability to be content in hiddenness, is what is going to keep you grounded when visibility comes. Second, dependency. Underground, you cannot survive on your own. You need water, you need nutrients, you need elements that you cannot provide for yourself. So you had to learn to draw from sources outside of yourself. You had to learn to depend on God in ways you never had to when life was comfortable. You had to develop a relationship with heaven that was not based on what you were getting, but on who you were becoming. And that dependency created a connection that nothing can sever. Third, endurance. Germination is not quick. It takes time, it takes pressure, it takes patience. And you had to endure the process without seeing the results. You had to keep believing when nothing was visible. You had to keep trusting when nothing was moving. You had to keep holding on when everything in you wanted to give up. And that endurance, that ability to outlast the darkness, is what qualifies you for the light. Fourth, identity. When you are underground, you cannot define yourself by what you do. You cannot define yourself by who knows you. You cannot define yourself by what you have accomplished. You have to define yourself by who you are at the core. And that forced identity work, that stripping away of everything external until all that remained was internal, that was necessary. Because trees that do not know their identity get confused about their purpose. You needed to know who you are before you could understand why you are. Share where you are watching from right now. Drop your city or country in the comments, because this is not just your story. This is a global movement of people who are transitioning from buried to planted, from hidden to emerging, from seeds to trees. Now, let me talk about the breaking through process. Because there comes a moment when the underground season ends and the above ground season begins. And that transition, that breaking through the surface, it is one of the most vulnerable moments in the entire growth cycle. The sprout is fragile. It is small. It is exposed. And it would be easy for something to crush it before it has a chance to establish itself. This is where you are right now. You are breaking through. You are emerging. You are becoming visible after being hidden for so long. And it feels vulnerable. It feels risky. It feels like you could still be crushed. But here is what you need to know. The same force that brought you through the soil is the same force that will protect you above it. You did not break through on your own. Heaven pushed you up. And heaven does not push you into exposure and then abandon you in it. You are covered. Let me tell you what breaking through looks like practically. First, you are going to notice opportunities appearing that were not there before. Doors are going to open that were previously locked. Conversations are going to happen that were previously impossible. And you are going to be tempted to think it is coincidence. It is not. It is the result of roots that were established underground, finally producing visible growth above ground. Second, you are going to notice that people are responding to you differently. They are going to see something in you that was not there before. A confidence, a clarity, a strength, and they are not going to be able to explain it, but you will know. You will know that what they are seeing is the result of what you became when nobody was watching. The underground season formed something in you that is now radiating from you. Third, you are going to start producing fruit. Not fake fruit, not forced fruit, real fruit. The kind that feeds people. The kind that nourishes communities. The kind that reproduces itself. And that fruit is going to come naturally. You are not going to have to manufacture it. You are not going to have to perform it. It is just going to flow out of who you have become. Before I go further, if this message is unlocking something you have been trying to articulate for years, go ahead and subscribe, because this is not random content. This is targeted revelation for people who are in the process of breaking through, and staying connected to this frequency keeps you aligned with the momentum that is already moving in your favor. Now, let me address something critical. Not everyone is going to celebrate your breaking through. Some people were comfortable with you being underground. Your hiddenness made them feel better about their own lack of growth. Your invisibility gave them permission to stay stagnant. And now that you are emerging, now that you are becoming visible, now that you are starting to produce, they are going to feel threatened. They are going to try to minimize your growth. They are going to say it is too soon. They are going to question whether you are ready. They are going to remind you of how small you still are, and you need to be prepared for that. Because their resistance is not about you, it is about them. Your growth exposes their excuses. Your breakthrough challenges their narrative. And instead of being inspired, they are going to be intimidated. Do not let their fear slow your growth. You did not endure the underground season just to stay small above ground. You did not develop roots just to refuse to grow tall. You did not break through soil just to shrink back under it. Grow anyway, grow boldly, grow unapologetically. And let your growth be the invitation for others to do the same. Here is something else you need to understand. Trees do not grow for themselves. They grow for the ecosystem. Their shade provides relief. Their fruit provides nourishment. Their oxygen provides life. Their presence provides stability to the soil around them. You are not growing just for you. You are growing for everyone who will benefit from what you produce. And that responsibility, that awareness that your growth serves a purpose beyond yourself, that changes how you steward it. You are not going to waste your growth on ego. You are not going to use your elevation to look down on people. You are not going to leverage your influence for selfish gain, because you remember what it was like underground. You remember what it felt like to be hidden. You remember the pain of the breaking process. And that memory keeps you humble. That memory keeps you grounded. That memory keeps you focused on using what you have been given to serve the people you have been sent to. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you are ready to grow in a way that serves others, not just yourself. Now let me talk about fruit, because this is the goal. This is the reason for the planting. This is the purpose of the underground season. Trees are planted so they can produce fruit, and the quality of the fruit reveals the quality of the root system. Shallow roots produce limited fruit. Deep roots produce abundant fruit. And your roots, the ones that were formed in prolonged darkness, are deep. Which means your fruit is going to be abundant. But here is what you need to know about fruit. Fruit takes time. An apple tree does not produce apples the first year. A peach tree does not produce peaches immediately. There is a season of growth that happens before there is a season of production. And you are in that growth season right now. You are visible. You are emerging. You are establishing yourself. But you are not producing yet, and that is okay. That is normal. That is the process. Let me break down the timeline of fruit production so you can understand where you are. Year 1, after breaking through, is establishment. The tree is focused on growing taller, getting stronger, developing branches. There is no fruit yet, just growth. Year 2 is strengthening. The tree is still growing, but now it is also developing the capacity to hold fruit. The branches are thickening. The structure is solidifying. Still no fruit, just preparation. Year 3, sometimes year 4, is the first production. Small fruit, limited quantity, but it is proof that the tree is maturing, and then year 5 and beyond, full production, abundant fruit, consistent harvests, maximum capacity. You might be in year 1 or year 2 right now. You are growing, you are strengthening, you are developing capacity, but you are not producing fruit yet. And people who do not understand the process are going to question you. They are going to ask why you are not producing. They are going to compare you to trees that are further along. They are going to wonder if you are ever going to amount to anything. Do not internalize their impatience. They do not understand that you are right on schedule, that what they interpret as delay is actually development, that what looks like lack of production is actually preparation for abundance. Do not force fruit before its time. Do not manufacture results just to prove you are productive. Do not perform just to satisfy people who are impatient with your process. Real fruit comes in season, and when it comes, it will be undeniable. It will be authentic, it will be nourishing, and it will reproduce itself in ways that forced fruit never could. Let me also tell you what happens when fruit finally does appear. People who ignored you when you were underground are going to suddenly take interest. People who overlooked you when you were breaking through are going to suddenly want access. People who criticized your growth are going to suddenly want to benefit from your production. And you are going to have to make a decision. Who gets access to your fruit? Who deserves to benefit from what you produced? Here is my counsel. Be generous, but be discerning. Not everyone who wants your fruit values your process. Not everyone who asks for access is willing to honor the sacrifice it took to produce. Some people just want to consume without contributing. They want to benefit without investing. They want to take without giving. And you have to be wise enough to recognize the difference between people who want to partner and people who want to parasite. Give your fruit to those who honor it. Share your resources with those who steward them well. Invest in people who will multiply what you give them. And do not feel guilty about withholding from people who have proven they will waste it. Wisdom is not stinginess. Wisdom is stewardship, and stewardship protects what was costly to produce. Now let me talk about multiplication, because one tree is valuable, but a forest is transformational. And the goal is not just for you to grow. The goal is for your growth to inspire, equip, and catalyze growth in others. The fruit you produce contains seeds, and those seeds, when planted in good soil, become trees themselves, which means your growth has the potential to create a forest. Think about what that means. The pain you endured does not just benefit you, it benefits everyone you help process their own pain. The wisdom you gained does not just guide you, it guides everyone you mentor through similar challenges. The strength you developed does not just sustain you, it stabilizes everyone who leans on you when they are weak. You are not just a tree, you are a forest in formation, and forests change climates. Let me explain how forests form. It starts with one tree. That tree produces fruit. The fruit falls to the ground. Animals eat the fruit and carry the seeds to new locations. The seeds take root in new soil, new trees grow. Those trees produce fruit, more seeds spread, more trees grow. And before long, what started as one tree becomes hundreds of trees. What started as an individual becomes a community. What started as personal becomes collective. You are that first tree. Your pain was intense because you were pioneering. Your underground season was long because you were establishing something that had never been established before. Your breaking was brutal because you were breaking ground that had never been broken. You were not just growing for yourself. You were creating a blueprint for everyone who would come after you. And now, as you grow, as you produce, as your fruit falls and spreads, you are going to watch other people start growing in ways they never could before. Your story is going to give them permission. Your breakthrough is going to give them hope. Your fruit is going to give them nourishment. And your forest is going to give them shelter. You are not just changing your own life, you are changing the ecosystem around you. Forests also provide oxygen. They clean the air. They purify the atmosphere. They make it possible for other life forms to thrive. And that is what you are going to do. Your presence is going to shift atmospheres. Your words are going to bring life where there was death. Your influence is going to purify environments that were toxic. You are not just growing for yourself. You are growing for everyone who needs what only a healthy tree can provide. Your story is going to give hope to people who feel buried. Your breakthrough is going to inspire people who are still underground. Your fruit is going to nourish people who are starving. And your forest is going to provide shelter for people who are exposed. That is the purpose of your planting, not just personal growth. Collective transformation. Comment forest if you understand that your growth is part of something bigger than yourself. Let me also prepare you for seasons, because trees go through seasons. There is spring when things bloom. There is summer when things grow. There is fall when things harvest. And there is winter when things rest. And each season serves a purpose. Each season has value. Each season is necessary. You are not always going to be in production mode. There will be seasons of rest, seasons of pruning, seasons of waiting. And those seasons are not setbacks. They are part of the cycle that keeps you healthy. Let me be specific about what each season teaches. Spring teaches renewal. After winter, when everything looked dead, spring proves that life was just dormant. Buds appear, flowers bloom, energy returns, and you remember that endings are not final, that what looks dead can come back to life, that resurrection is always possible. Summer teaches growth. This is the season of expansion, of reaching higher, of spreading wider, of maximizing potential, and you learn that growth is not comfortable. It is stretching. It is pushing past limits. It is becoming more than you were. But the discomfort is temporary. The growth is permanent. Fall teaches release. Leaves change color and fall. Fruit ripens and drops. The tree lets go of what it produced so it can prepare for what is next. And you learn that holding on to what was prevents you from moving into what will be. That release is not loss when it creates space for something new. That letting go is an act of faith, not failure. Winter teaches rest. Everything slows down. Growth stops. Production ceases, and the tree is forced to be still, to conserve energy, to rebuild internally. And you learn that rest is not laziness. Rest is wisdom. Rest is how you recover from seasons of output. Rest is how you prepare for seasons of growth. Trees that do not rest do not last. But trees that honor winter come back stronger in spring. Do not resent the winter seasons. Do not panic when growth slows. Do not assume something is wrong when production decreases. You might just be in a rest season. And rest is not laziness. Rest is wisdom. Rest is how you sustain longevity. Rest is how you avoid burnout. Trees that try to produce year-round without rest eventually die. But trees that honor the seasons, that rest when it is time to rest, and grow when it is time to grow, those trees last for generations. You are being built to last. Not for a moment, for a movement, not for a season, for a legacy. And legacies require rhythms that honor both work and rest, both production and restoration, both giving and receiving. Learn the rhythm. Honor the rhythm, and trust that the rhythm is designed by the one who planted you. Now let me close with this. You survived the planting for a reason. You endured the darkness for a purpose. You developed roots that qualify you for heights most people will never reach. And now, as you break through, as you grow, as you produce, remember where you came from. Remember what it cost. Remember who sustained you when you could not sustain yourself, and let that memory keep you humble. Let that memory keep you grateful. Let that memory keep you dependent on the same source that brought you from seed to tree. Because trees that forget their roots eventually fall, but trees that stay connected to what sustained them underground remain unshakable above ground. You were planted, not buried. The dirt was soil, not a grave. The darkness was germination, not termination. And what is emerging from you now is going to feed, shelter, and inspire more people than you can imagine. Walk into this season with confidence. You are not a seed anymore. You are a tree, and trees do not apologize for growing tall. They just grow. And in growing, they change everything around them. If this word has unlocked years of confusion and given you a new lens to see your story through, let me know. Comment tree, drop an amen, or share your testimony, because your agreement with this truth accelerates your growth, and your growth is what the world is waiting for. Take a deep breath. You made it through the soil. You are above ground now. The sun is on your face. The rain is nourishing you, and everything that tried to bury you is now beneath you, serving as the foundation for your growth. This is your moment. This is your season. Grow without apology, produce without hesitation, and let your life be the proof that what was meant to bury you actually planted you for greatness. You are not buried. You are planted. You are not finished. You are flourishing. You are not dead. You are deeply alive, and what comes next is going to prove that seeds, when planted in the right soil, always become forests. Go in strength. Your roots are deep, your growth is unstoppable, and your fruit is going to change the world.